This is the new Coleman RB200 mini bike. I'm pretty excited about this one.
Load capacity 200 pounds. Engine type 4-stroke, 1-cylinder. Bore is 68 millimeter. Displacement 196 cc. Power 5.4 horsepower. It has a centrifugal clutch. Weight 154 pounds. Max speed 19 miles per hour.
The new Coleman RB200 mini bike. As you can see here, I've been a little bit busy testing out to see some engine swaps, checking out one of the older Coleman motors to see if this is anything that's going to be the same. And the mini bike itself appears to be quite new. It does have a clutch, a jack shaft, a few other things that I'm going to be touching base on. This video here is going to be covering when it arrives, what to expect. It doesn't come in the most meticulous condition. Don't be alarmed, I'll cover that shortly. I'm going to be going over the assembly, the tools that you need. It does come with a little toolkit of 3 wrenches. You are going to need a few more tools than that. We're also going to be taking a look at a little bit of quality control. Good quality, bad koala. Oh my God, you cannot unsee a wet koala. I do apologize for that. Bink, and then I'm going to be going over some of the measurements for you, measuring up the seat, the pegs, the handlebars, a few other things, just so you can see if this mini bike fits your needs. I'm going to be comparing it to 2 other mini bikes, the Coleman RT200X, which I've got over here as well for some measurements, and I'm going to be comparing it to the RB100, a smaller mini bike by Coleman, just out recently, and I have a whole video on the RB100 if you'd like to check that out. Bink! So let's get started right into my intro and then throw down into the main event. Tillotson and a Predator, both 212cc engines. Doing an intro, I'm doing an intro now. Isn't it neat? Doing an intro, cause I'm doing an intro now. Look at my feet. So I've done a few of these mini bikes where I purchased them. I either pick them up in store, have them sent directly to my house. And the first thing I'm going to say is when you're first taking a look at your mini bike frame, it may look like a robotic rhinoceros dry hump the heck out of the thing, but it could be all right. So don't panic on the condition of the shipping frame when you get it. You are going to want to do an inspection. If you are picking up in store, hopefully they're going to be all right that you just open the box a little bit more and take a pre-check. What you're going to be looking for is a small box inside that will have all of your parts. If that small box is in there, feel free to open that up if you can, and make sure that you have your other foot peg and your brackets for the handlebars. There won't be too much inside of that box, but you want to make sure that the box didn't fall out during transit. So assembly, I'm going to take this out of the shipping crate now.
That's a lot better.
Let's grab a list of tools. It does come with a few tools, but they're not exactly the best. You are going to want an Allen key CRV6 metric, a small flathead screwdriver, a Phillips head screwdriver, wrenches or sockets in the sizes 8mm, 10, 13, 14, and 17mm. You will want an air pump. A handheld electric drill could make this assembly go quite a bit faster. You may need a valve stem tool. You may not. It may just be a rare case that I had a tire that needed one. And you will want some blue Loctite for your clutch and possibly some of the other bolts as well. While you're assembling this mini bike, you want to be doing some inspections. Make sure that everything is tight and not going to be falling apart on you. So the front fender mounts may come crooked. You just have an 8mm and a 10mm wrench. You should be able to straighten those right out. The throttle handle may need to be loosened so the cable slides back and forth. When I got my throttle cable, you could go full throttle, but then the handle wouldn't go back the other direction. In order to correct this, I removed one of the screws for the twist throttle itself, and that allowed the cable to loosen up and be able to move back and forth more easily. Do be careful. It looks as though that the screws are sort of put into place when the paint is still tacky. You may strip your screw, so you got to be very careful there. Use the right bit. The throttle control plate needs to be secured. It may be a bit loose. Check to make sure it's not too loose. If it is too loose, tighten it down. You're going to have to remove your air filter box in order to do so. And to remove that air filter box, you'll be using a Phillips head screwdriver. Remove the box, tighten down the plate, make sure that everything is still smoothly operating with your throttle controls. My throttle control plate needed to be bent up just a little bit. If so, make sure that you're not going to be having it bump into the other parts of the plate or any of the other moving parts. So I did have to give that lever a bit of a bend in an upwards direction. And then everything with my throttle was working just fine. Once you put your handlebars on, you may have to align the brake lever so it's not sticking straight up in the air. The light switch on mine came a bit loose. You'll need that small flathead screwdriver to tighten that down. I took the clutch cover off, pulled the clutch bolt off, put some Loctite on, snug that down really firm. With the tire, I surprisingly had a loose valve stem. Now this is actually a pretty rare thing. I have never had this occur before. I happen to have a valve stem tool. They are pretty inexpensive. It was a pretty quick and easy fix. Hopefully you don't have that problem, but just in advance, I'll let you know that that did occur with this one. The kill switch was upside down. That was a little bit funny because it was right next to a quality control pass sticker. QC pass 09. Somebody's got to be looking at 09, huh? And then we'll go over clutch maintenance, oil, and gas in a little bit. But you want to make sure that you have your oil in there and make sure that you have oil in advance.
All right, now hopefully that wasn't too much for you. I am cruising around on the RB200 right now, so yes, it may take a little bit to put it together, but once it's together, it is just a blast to ride. It's got quite a bit of low-end torque. The top end kind of maxes out where I would expect it's got some really nice low-end torque. I mean, it just pushes me uphill. I'm just cruising around down backwards and crank it up right up a hill. That's pretty nice. Woo! Minibike! Alright, so for $500 to $700, however much you're putting into it with shipping and tax and everything else, I picked up for about $600. This is a pretty sweet ride. Definitely a very, very comfortable mini bike. Cruiser to go on. I'm going to be coming up with some modifications. It does have the 3/4 inch shaft, and I will have future videos about putting a little bit more power. If you saw my last video that just came out about making a monster 9,000 RPM engine, you may guess where that engine is going if you already watched the video and saw the exhaust that I have for it. There are exhausts and aftermarket parts available for this mini bike, but hey, you know what? Let's get into measurements and wrap up this video to see, how big is it, and is it going to work out for you versus the competition that's out there.
All right, well, hopefully that went by pretty fast, and you've got what you need for tools for in advance. When you're anxiously awaiting and expecting this mini bike to come, you're going to want to have everything prepared ahead of time so that you're not going to be getting it there and be like, all right, what do I need? It does come all right. Make sure that your fluid reservoir does have brake fluid in there. This is a hydraulic brake, and it's a pretty decent hydraulic brake as well. We have got a seat height coming in right around 26 inches, 26-inch seat height. Those pegs are going to be about 9 inches off of the ground. If you're at a good seating position where it goes low and then goes high again up to here, your arm length to reach is going to be about 16 inches. So now I'm 6 foot tall, about 185 pounds. It is a pretty comfortable reach for me. And of the mini bikes on the market and available today, quite possibly the most comfortable. I am aware of a couple other mini bikes that are contenders. They can cost you about $1,000 to get to you. This mini bike is going to be one of the best bangs for your buck for sure. And that rear brake right there, that rear hydraulic brake does have some nice stopping power to it. And the front suspension does give it a nice soft ride. The seat is very comfortable seat. It is a wider seat than some of the mini bikes have on the marketplace today. Let's take a look at the widest juncture here. We're looking at an 11-inch wide seat. Let's compare it to some of the other mini bikes out there that you can get today. I think this is the Coleman RB100. RB100 meet RB200. RB200, RB100. The smaller version is going to be running you a seat height of about 23 inches. Now you may say it's 23 inches, the seat height isn't that much difference, but the seat on this one is going to be a lot more narrow at 7 inches, and also the arm length. It is going to be a bit shorter. So if you are looking for a little bit smaller of a mini bike, this is also a really great deal. Probably of the smaller frames, my favorite one available on the market. So you could very well be competing with one of my favorites on the market today and my favorite on the market today of the two choices you may be getting. Let's take a look at something a little bit bigger, the Coleman RT200X. Bink! All right. Shoot. Bink! All right, so as you may notice right off, this isn't exactly a stock Coleman RT200X. We're going to take some measurements of the seat height over here. This comes stock around 29 inches high and is going to be about 8 inches wide by comparison. So if you are looking at something a little bit bigger, a little bit larger, you can compare the RT200X from Coleman to the RB200 from Coleman Motorsports. Both really great mini bikes. Now this one is set up sort of for, I'm going to say ice fishing. You can see the colors will attract the fish better. Well, actually it's set up for trail riding. It has a nice large rack. This is a very large, wide rear rack as opposed to a very small rear rack, but I do like that it has a small rear rack. If you're looking at something more utilitarian, the RT200X is a phenomenal option, and it's great for getting out there on those deep ride trails. If you're not going the fastest, if you're not like the need for speed, but you're thundering about and you want a bike that can take some serious abuse, the RT200X is an incredible option for you. In fact, if I were allowed only one mini bike, if I were allowed only one mini bike, I would actually have to say that the only mini bike I would go with would be the RT200X.
All right, which one's your favorite? Is it the RT200X, the RB200, the RB100, the Max, the Pro?
Why? Because the larger rear racks does actually work out for my needs and my benefit. Not everybody is going to be out there with a huge ice fishing bucket and an ice fishing auger and all the other needs out there on a lake, but that's just my needs. Now take that away, what do you have from it? Because it sits up a little higher, the turning radius is amazing if you stud the tires and you're out on the ice. Again, not something that's very common. What is the last thing that it has benefit to it? If you notice, it's set up for stunting. I've got a wheelie bar set up on here for my buddy who wants to come over. I actually have a couple buddies, they want to do wheelies. This bike can take a thrashing. I've been practicing, I had to put the little casters on here because I've been doing 180 uprights on this and practicing and just gouging up that rear rack. I have some grip tape in there, modified the frame so I can put my feet in there in different ways. It is just a thrasher of a bike. Definitely has some benefits to it. Had to put a thumb throttle on there for safety for others, but not too many people have all of those needs and they want to just go faster and they want something more comfortable. Well, if you like faster and more comfortable, the RB200 is an amazing mini bike and quite honestly, one of my favorite frames and comfort levels. I do have a couple other mini bikes from other generations. People will be asking about that. I think I'll do it in a different video. What are the comparisons to some of what known as a Mega Moto versus a Coleman? Different video, possibly something else coming up. But the RB200 is a great mini bike. One of the other important measurements for some people they want to know is how big is the crankshaft size for future mods? And this uses a 3/4 inch crankshaft. It is not the same engine as the other Coleman mini bikes. This has an engine swap to it, and it needed a few things. This doesn't have an engine swap yet. If you are looking to do an engine swap on this to give it a little bit more power, just note that the crankshaft setup, 3/4 inch, that's great. If you want to be putting a torque converter on there, you don't need to remove anything or bend anything out of the way, such as the other Coleman mini bikes are needed. It looks like a straight shot going right out to the gear. It looks really nice. I have been playing around with that. If you are looking to swap to a different engine and you want to keep the jack shaft on there, you do need 5 new bolts. 5 new bolts because of the 24 thread, which is kind of a rare bolt. So those are some measurements, some comparative. If you are looking for aftermarket part support for this, thankfully there are actually already aftermarket supports. Not a lot of people have been doing customizations with this frame as of yet. There are a few out there, they're looking pretty good. I think with the BT200X, as you may notice already, there have been a few customizations. If you want to know more about the paint, I have a couple hydro dipping videos where yes, I did hydro dip the entire frame to it. You can go ahead and check that out. I am going to be having some more performance videos coming out for modifications to the RB200. Hopefully going to be earning your subscription today and giving me a thumbs up because, oh man, I could use one right now. Dislocated that sucker the other day. And I'm going to be doing some modifications videos coming on up for the RB100, the RB200, and maybe showing you a little bit more about that BT200X stunt bike. If you'd like to see more about that, before that, let me know in the comments down below. If there's anything that you have questions on with the RB200, I have been taking it apart and putting it back together. Throw those questions down in the comments down below. I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day.